Hello, I'm City Councilor Isaac Benton. I'm the Councilor for District 2, which is our center city district more or less. And I want to thank newly elected Council President Cynthia Borrego for inviting me to read today. And I've chosen a book by Pablita Velarde. She lived from the years of 1918 to 2006 and was from Santa Clara, Pueblo, and was really known as a painter. These are her interpretations of traditional stories from the Pueblo, accompanied by her paintings. So I'll try to hold up a couple of the images from the book as we go along. But she went to school at St. Catherine's in Santa Fe and the Native American Santa Fe Indian School, and big job that she got when she graduated was to paint the murals at Bandelier National Monument Visitor Center. So first book, or the first story, I've got a couple of short stories. Sad Eyes, and I'll show you the image. And at sunrise, a deer dance had begun, and most of the children had been awake since long before dawn. Still, they chattered around the evening fire, asking Old Father endless questions about the day's exciting ceremony. Said Old Father, "Whenever you hear the early morning call of the deer dance ceremony, you are hearing the echo of a song once sung to the deer by a boy who loved them." It was pinon harvesting time, and everyone in the village was camping on the high mesa near Puye. Men, women, and children stayed out early at dawn. A girl among them was expecting a child, and being young and inexperienced, she wandered deep into the woods, and there she bore her son. Frightened, he made her way back to camp, her way back to camp, but could not remember which direction she had taken, and although a search was made, the child could not be found. A family of deer came down to the canyon to drink at evening time. Father deer was leading as usual, with mother following, then the young one. The old buck sensed something strange, and after sniffing the air, he approached a clump of bushes, where he found the little human boy. He called the other two deer, and they all sniffed the child and licked him with their tongues. Mother deer said she would nurse the boy, and while she fed him, she began to love this little human child and made plans to carry him home. This she did by laying him across the father deer's antlers, and in this manner they carried him with them wherever they wandered. As time went by, the child grew and was happy with life. He was as wild as the animals and as swift-footed. He knew he was different, but did not know how he came to be so. He understood the ways of the deer, for he was one of them. He knew the changes of the seasons and became aware of the dangers around him. One year, when the leaves had changed and fallen, he was saddened for the first time in his life because his dear brother, whom he loved very much, was missing. He went to look for his brother, and during his search he came near a camp where he saw beings like himself sitting around a fire making noises. He could not understand why they sat so close to the fire, for to him fire was dangerous. He heard one of them lifting his voice above the others, and it made him want to do the same thing. He tried it, but he was heard and seen by the men, and soon he was running through the thicket to escape, which he did easily by outrunning his pursuers. When he came back to the cave where he lived, he told Father and Mother deer what he had seen and tried to sing the song. Although they did not understand him, they listened and approved. It became a familiar sound to them to hear the boy sing as he rode on the back of the father deer. At the village there was excitement at the news the men told of seeing a wild boy in the woods. It was decided to hunt him down, as he might have been the cause of their many hunting failures for the past few seasons. The first tries were disappointing. They could not locate the boy or even a deer. At last they encircled the water hole, and sat in wait for the deer to come for their daily drink. They heard singing and saw a herd of deer coming, with the boy riding on the back of the biggest and oldest buck of the herd. As the boy jumped off and lay flat on the ground to drink, the hunters closed in and captured him. They took him to the village and locked him in a room with a very small opening, and he was bewildered and very frightened. He could not eat the food given him. All his life he had eaten roots, berries, and nuts, and had drunk milk from mother deer with new fawns. His stomach pained, but still he would not eat. His eyes grew sadder every day. One evening he heard voices as a woman outside his room begged the guard to allow her to see the boy. At first the guard would not listen and became angry with her and pushed her out of the way. She fell and her eyes filled with tears. Her eyes had such sadness in them, the guard felt sorry that he had been brutal, and he helped her up and let her enter the room, with a last warning that the boy was wild and might harm her. As she entered, she saw the boy crouching in a corner, and she knelt beside him and studied his features. A deep feeling drew her to him, but when she lifted her hand to touch him, he sprang out of reach. As they gazed steadily at one another, the sadness in his eyes seemed to be asking something of her. She knew the strange boy was miserable, and she smiled gently at him. His expression did not change, but after a time he did not seem to be afraid of her. After that, the woman was allowed to stay with the boy. She made him sandals and a kilt, and when she dressed him, she was pleased to see a handsome young man. She showed him how to tan animal hides and use the bone awl and sinews of animals for sewing. She made a quiver out of the skin of a lynx, taught him how to make arrows with flint tips, and brought him a bow. He even learned to say a few words, just as he had learned from the deer their way of talking. He sometimes smiled at the woman now, but his eyes did not lose their sadness. Most of the day he stood at the small window humming his song, looking up at the fog clouds, the cloud flowers on top of the mountain. Slowly the woman came to know he would never be happy with people. She thought of how she herself had often gone to the mountain and found peace there, feeling near to the Great One as she listened to the mountain's breath sound. She promised herself that when time was right, she would help the boy find his way back to where he belonged. In the mountains, the deer had missed the boy, too. In dangerous attempts to find him, some had lost their lives. As time passed, they thought his life too must have been lost, and more sadness came into their eyes. One day, the woman was allowed to take the boy for a walk, the belief being that he had forgotten the deer. They walked towards the mountains, the boy's hand held tightly in hers, and when they turned to come back, she saw the boy's eyes fill with tear. "Ahi, ahi, what can I do?" she chanted softly and let his hand go. As he walked away from her, he was singing his song, and the woman knew this time it was for her. Now it is she who looks up from her window in the mountain, but her eyes are not sad. She has just finished a water jug on a new design that we call the House of Deer. To her, it means the dwelling place of the spirit deer, a place where he has eternal freedom, and this brings her happiness for the strange boy. And as you know, we still use her design on the ceremonial ollas. So that's the end of that story, and here's another image. From the book, a wonderful painting by Pablita Velarde. We have time for one more. This one's called Turkey Girl. And here's Pablita's image of the turkey girl. A little girl asked an old man with a kind face, "Old father, are there any little girls in the mountains?" Old father answered, "There is Turkey Girl." The child munched parched corn and waited for him to continue. If you don't stop eating so much parched corn, you might turn yourself into a little turkey yourself. He smiled as he went on. Living with her foster mother at Shupina was a young girl. For a livelihood, they depended on a flock of turkeys, which the girl had to take out every day to forage for food. She was fond of the turkeys and found her only happiness in talking to them each day. Her foster mother was a cruel woman who had despised the child from the time she took her in, after her parents had been killed by an enemy tribe. Since no one could remember the name given to the girl by her parents, and since she had been with turkeys from the first day she could walk, it was natural that she should be called Turkey Girl. And one day, after she had reached her early maidenhood, a ceremonial was to be held at Puye. As Turkey Girl had never been beyond the boundaries of Shupina and had never seen any kind of celebration, she asked her foster mother to take her along. The hateful woman, who cared only for the work she could get from Turkey Girl, sneered, "You go to the ceremonial with me? Look at you. Your hair is crawling with lice and your dress is dirty, Turkey Girl. Why, the very name you have makes you smell like one. No, you can't come with me. Go tend your turkeys." With that, she left for Puye and the celebration, while poor miserable Turkey Girl returned to her birds. After she got them to the grazing place, she sat down and cried, pouring out words of grief between sobs. The turkeys listened. Then one of the older birds gobbled, and at this signal they all began to pull her matted hair and pick out the lice. Upon being attacked in this manner, she thought, "Not even the birds like me. Let them kill me. I want to die." The turkeys tried to be gentle in their task, but it was not easy. After finishing, they all headed for the river, and because she feared what her foster mother would do if she lost one bird, Turkey Girl followed them. When they reached the river's edge, she stooped down over the water to drink, whereupon the turkeys pushed her in and stood guard over her until she was bathed clean. She watched them pick her dirty, ragged dress to pieces and asked what she was to wear, reminding them that she had no other garment. Again, the oldest bird gobbled, and another turkey knocked a stick into the pool. Grabbing the stick, Turkey Girl struck the oldest turkey, and he instantly dropped a beautiful new dress. When one of the other birds came rushing towards the dress, Turkey Girl thought he was meant to destroy it, and again she struck out with the stick, causing the turkey to drop a brilliant red woven sash. Two more birds came rushing towards her, and she thought, "They are angry with me for hitting their brothers, and they will surely peck me to death." She struck at them until her stick broke, then closed her eyes in fear. But as everything suddenly became quiet, she opened her eyes to see where the turkeys had gone. There before her were 6 turkeys holding out the new apparel they had dropped. She begged them to forgive her, promising that as long as she lived, she would never hurt them again. They all gobbled and let her out of the water. After she had dressed in her new manta, sash, and moccasins, 2 birds gave her strings of coral for necklaces and blue bands to hold back her hair, now long, clean, and shining black. She was beautiful. The turkeys looked pleased. They gobbled and gobbled, motioning for her to go. Hearing some travelers passing, she ran to see who they were. And when they saw the lovely girl, they asked her to come along to the celebration. She looked back at her turkeys and thought she heard the oldest one telling her to go, so she went. When she got to Puye, the ceremonial dancing had begun, and after watching for a while, she realized that everyone was staring in her direction. She did not understand that it was her beauty that they were admiring. Even her foster mother was gaping without recognizing her. Soon all the young men and even some of the older ones were asking her name and where was she from. Some offered her gifts, while others began to quarrel, and when the fuss erupted into a fight, Turkey Girl became frightened and decided to get back to Shupina as fast as her feet would take her. The crowd followed her for a distance, but her years with the turkey herd had made her nimble-footed, and she soon outran them. She was still trying to understand the crowd's behavior when she got back to her turkeys and sat down on a rock to tell them her story. While she was talking, her foster mother appeared. the celebration having been ended by the fighting. And when she spied the girl who had caused the disturbance, she asked, "What are you doing with my turkeys? Where is Turkey Girl?" When Turkey Girl answered, the women recognized her and ran back to tell the quarreling men that the beautiful girl they had been fighting over was none other than a black-hearted witch called Turkey Girl. Hearing this, the men started out to find Turkey Girl and kill her, as was customary for all witches. However, the turkeys sensed danger to their mistress and led her way up into the high mountains to the west, towards a sacred cave on the mountaintop. They had almost reached the cave when they heard shouts behind them. "There's the witch! Kill her!" As the pursuers aimed their stone hatchets, rocks, and arrows, a weird, beautiful turkey wing of a monstrous size arose, hiding Turkey Girl and her flock, giving them a few precious seconds to enter the cave of shrines to a better land. After the girl and her turkeys disappeared, the giant wing vanished also, and when the foster mother and her accomplices approached, all they found were turkey tracks on the ground and echoes of gobbling coming from the canyon walls. Since that time, the mountain has been called Turkey Track Mountain by our people. They say many unbelievers have hunted there, but all have returned disappointed with the same story. "We heard turkeys gobbling in the canyons, but all we found were turkey tracks." So that's the story of Turkey Girl. There's another beautiful image by Pablita Velarde. What a wonderful painter. And there's one more good image of the Turkey Girl, I think, here. Yeah. So thanks everybody for listening. Remember that name, Pablita Velarde. And you can find more about her, but she's one of our great native New Mexicans.